First, rising food costs were the catalyst for riots in Tunisia, and now chaos is breaking out in Algeria, as you can see from these dramatic images taken over the last 48 hours. Young people torched government buildings shouting, "Bring us sugar." The riots come as prices for milk, sugar, and flour have risen in recent days. Algerians are also frustrated with chronic unemployment and are upset that the country's oil and gas wealth isn't trickling down to all classes. On Wednesday, a police station and a Renault car dealership were among the buildings set on fire. Police used tear gas to fight back stone-throwing rioters. Those riots could be just the tip of the iceberg. There simply isn't enough supply to keep up with the growing demand, and the ramifications are clearly being felt around the world. The price of putting food on the table is at its highest levels since 2008. Steve Nicholson, a commodity procurement specialist at International Food Products, joins us from St. Louis to discuss the impact of rising food prices. Mr. Nicholson, welcome to Bloomberg News. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Mark. Thanks for having me.
Mr. Nicholson, 2008, that was the year that I just mentioned. That was also a year that sparked deadly riots from Haiti to Egypt. Without putting too much emphasis and getting too macabre about this, is this something that we may see played out in other places around the world this year?
Oh, I think you're absolutely right. I think we will see that played out in parts of the world right now, and you can see governments, and we'll focus on China, working very, very hard and trying to stamp down food inflation, and they're having a very difficult time doing it. And the commodity markets are not, not helping them in any way right now. As a lot of these commodities are making highs we haven't seen since 2008 here.
Are the Chinese doing anything to try to keep inflation in check?
Yes, they are trying to do several different things, and they've kind of approached it from several different fronts. We've seen them try to stamp down speculation because they think that's part of the problem. They have raised both interest rates twice here this fall, or this past fall here in 2010. They've also tried to raise the bank reserves that banks have to hold on to, and frankly, they have kind of tried to evolve into this, and my concern is at this point they're not doing enough fast enough to really get a hold of it. And most of us will remember the late 70s here when Chairman Volcker raised interest rates very, very quickly and very high to try to put out inflation. It's a very bitter pill, but maybe something the Chinese need to consider at this point.
The world doesn't seem to be producing food fast enough to keep up with a growing population. Are the reasons for this, are they meteorological? Are they political? Are they cultural? What?
I think there's a couple different things going on here, Mark. I think short term right now we have weather issues around the world. Australia, of course, has been in the news a lot with the flooding they had there, which is impacting both the wheat and the sugar crops. We have the La Nina ongoing right now, which is impacting the crops in South America, and there's a lot of concern about the soybean and corn crops in Brazil and Argentina their summer right now. We've had issues, of course, with weather here in the States. It's very dry in the hard red winter wheat areas of Kansas and Nebraska and Oklahoma. So it's weather, but if you look a little longer term, the problem is we're not producing food fast enough, if you have it, or the growth, and let's recharacterize and say that the growth in production is not keeping up with the growth in demand.
At this point, running up equity prices, that generally might have some positive consequences, but the same can't be said for fruit prices, correct?
Absolutely not. I mean, and you characterize it very well. People are excited, their 401ks go up or the stock prices go up, and everyone's happy about that. But food prices and energy prices, and we'll lump them together, they go up. That has consequences to people both here in the United States and around the world.
I just mentioned right before we came to you that rioting that was taking place in Algeria, yes. And some of the rioters were shouting, "Bring us sugar." Could you tell us what the significance is of sugar in Algeria?
Yeah, I don't know specifically what's going on in Algeria, but sugar is very tight around the world, and I suspect, as in many parts of the world, weather has been an issue with sugar production, and sugar prices are at very high levels both domestically and the world sugar market, and it's probably they just cannot physically get the sugar to them fast enough, and that's become an issue here in the United States. Last year we saw a little bit. We didn't see any shortages, but we saw some dislocation, and I think we may see that again this year.
Mr. Nicholson, in our last 30 seconds, what's the bottom line here? What does the rest of this year look like for world food prices?
I think the bottom line is you're going to see higher food prices around the world, and I don't see any relief at this point. Cannot find that, that shock or whatever you want to call it in the economic system is going to change the trend we're in right now, which is up.
All right, Steve Nicholson from International Food Products joining us live from St. Louis. Thank you, sir, so much.